Morning and welcome to Today in L.A., Lower Alabama. I'm Mike Amos calling you from beautiful Gulf of Mexico as we look out over a morning sunrise. And, of course, Bill Rice, hello. Good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning, Mike Amos. I am joined this morning by the director of the Troy Parks and Recreation Department, Dan Smith, a man that probably needs no introduction. And we'll be joined shortly by Michael Amos, your son.
You know, Dan, they started off with a guy named Bill Sanford. We lost Bill Sanford recently, but Bill Sanford at one time was a recreation director in Troy. I want to say he was the first recreation director. Is that right?
Well, I know Mr. Sanford and Mr. Pete Farah and Scotty Sowers, all three of them gentlemen were instrumental in laying the foundation for park and recreation as we know it in Troy now, and in addition to Kathy Flynn and Bo Gaylord, all of them did great things.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I was going to start with. Of course, we've got a phone ringing from somewhere right now. I'm talking to you on my speakerphone. Who is this ringing on us, Bill? Do you know?
Well, that's not on our end. That must be on your cell phone on your end.
Okay, it must be on my cell phone end. And good morning. Well, we'll get it in a second. This is something.
This is laid back TV at its finest, as you say all the time.
Let's see. I'm trying to get it in here this morning.
Might be President Trump.
Yeah. Well, it is sure ringing right now, and what we'll do, I'll go off there and come back on and see if that helps.
We'll talk to Dan. The main reason we have Dan here this morning is to give us an update on youth baseball. Dan, what do we know?
Well, Bill, of course, our coaches with baseball and softball here in Troy, we met at the Recreation Center 3 nights ago, Tuesday night, and it was my administrative staff, David Dickey, and the mayor was there as well. We were very glad he was there, and he was able to shed a lot of insight as to how the pandemic has affected our community. And there's no doubt that everybody knows how much we love to play baseball and softball in Troy, Alabama. And I guess it's been about 2 weeks ago maybe that the governor released her announcement,
guidance or
guidelines, and had her press conference and said everybody can return to practicing baseball and softball and resume games on June 15th. But she did not go into the details in that press conference of what the guidelines were. And it was just a few minutes later we got into the boardroom and started reading the details, and we knew there were going to be some significant challenges. And we made the coaches aware of the challenges. The coaches talked to the parents, and then we all got together and met as one in our gymnasium.
Bring Mike in.
All right, Michael, you're now joining us. Dan Smith has given us an update on the softball and baseball programs, which are not going to be available this year because of the coronavirus. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Dan.
And we met this past Tuesday night, and it was the overall unanimous consensus of everyone present that this just was not the right time. We wish we could have, and we wish we could play, but the restrictions that were in place in terms of the children wearing masks in the dugouts and asking requiring the fans to wear masks, and social distancing, using the bleachers as dugouts for the children, and all the parents sitting up and down the foul lines in lawn chairs and such. We understand, first of all, that the health of the children, the parents, and the grandparents, that's the number one priority. And as the mayor stated and said, and it's just so true, there's nothing in our community that brings people together like baseball and softball. So you can imagine, you've seen it many times, how many people are at the ballpark at night.
Right, yeah.
And right now, this is a time in Troy, especially in Alabama and our nation, that we're trying to get this virus under control. And the coaches and our department agreed that this unfortunately was not the right time to resume play.
Well, and then on top of that, I would think that the logistics of getting practices in and picking teams and finishing before school started would have been very challenging on top of that.
Had a very short window. Of course, the World Series for boys has been canceled. All the state tournaments, all the state tournaments for boys have been canceled. The girls are still on schedule, at least in hopes of playing a state tournament and a World Series. And it would have been a short window indeed.
Okay.
Talking to Will, but not only did it upset these kids not being able to play baseball, but like you said, the coaches, the parents, the aunts and uncles, the grandparents, and everybody. Everybody looks forward to baseball, especially in Troy, Alabama. And Dan, you built a monster, my friend, a monster, because that is one of the ways we get everything going every summer is to watch baseball and enjoy rec baseball. And y'all have done a super job. And I know it's not easy to make that decision, but you had so many scenarios there that you just really would have.
Well, just from what Dan said, that overview, I imagine most recreation departments in the country have done the same thing, or many of them.
A high percentage have. There are some that are attempting. They have not resumed play yet, potentially June the 15th. And in speaking with other recreation departments, it is going to be a challenge, and we wish them well. It will be a challenge.
Yeah.
Let me answer this, of course.
So what about financially? I mean, I know that's going to be a pretty big hit for you guys and your employees. I mean, are you guys going to be able to keep everybody on, or we don't have to furlough a lot of employees? How's that going to work?
Well, Mike, right now we're very blessed in our community. Going back to the days of Jimmy Lunsford and today with Mayor Jason Reeves, our mayors and our city council have done a tremendous job in making the city of Troy as a government entity a strong financial operation. And Mayor Reeves especially has just picked up where Mayor Lunsford left off, and Mayor Reeves has been extremely progressive, and they're very smart businessmen. And right now, we're very thankful to have a job, very blessed, and still being productive in our community and in our city. And we're hoping this virus and pandemic will be gone soon, and we can resume to normal operations.
Yeah, and next year we'll be right back to normal.
So what are your plans for the fall as far as your termite football, your peewee football? Is that something you're going to look into, later on in, I guess, maybe August, or when would you have to make that decision?
Well, right now we're full steam ahead. That we have all hopes and plans of playing soccer, flag football, tackle football, cheerleading, and girls volleyball, and the potential of a fall baseball and softball league. At the meeting a few nights ago, some of the coaches brought that up as, is it possible to have a fall baseball and softball league? And we told them, yes, if the interest is there, then we can make it happen.
Wow.
That'd be wonderful. That would be wonderful if you could do that. Let me ask you this, on a local note this morning. How did the Tip Collie Awards go last night, Dan?
Well, of course, there was not a banquet, as we are aware. It was I know I'm going to say a virtual awards presentation from what I understand, and I did see some of the winners, Bill, do you know who those 3 winners are by any chance?
Not yet. I'm working on another story, and I worked until about 10:30 last night on my story, so I never even looked at Facebook or.
But, somebody.
I saw it on Facebook. Jerry Miller and Neil Armstrong were doing it on Troy Cable. It looked like.
Okay, so they did. It was not a live broadcast, or was it?
No, it was live. From what I saw when I was, just looking at Facebook.
We'll have.
But it was nobody. You didn't have people in the building, though. Is that right?
No, everything was through Zoom on your computer.
Okay, I got you.
How many people do we have participating in youth baseball and softball in a typical year, Dan?
Approximately 800 once we get everyone signed up through Dixie Boys and Dixie Bells.
Okay, and those are ages what?
4 and 5 up to 15.
All right.
Dan, of course, this is something that we have not had to deal with. Nobody in the country has had to deal with it. I know baseball is probably the most popular youth sport, without a doubt, the most popular youth sport in America. But now they can resort to travel ball. Of course, the reason I'm saying that is they're opening up travel ball down here today. At the big sports complex here in Panama City. It's probably one of the largest programs of this type in the country. Of course, Troy's always put the rec program first, and rightfully so, and one of the best rec programs in the country. But travel ball can take up some of the slack here. Will the city of Troy utilize or let the travel ball utilize any of your facilities?
Yes, sir, absolutely. As a matter of fact, a lot of our coaches and players will transition from thinking of and hoping on our recreation season to transitioning into the weekend travel ball tournaments. And we do know that we do have a lot of young ladies, some girls, softball players, and some boys, baseball players that will be on local travel ball teams, and they are allowed to practice, of course, out at our recreation center, and that is a great partnership we have in our community. Not only our facilities provide opportunities for local recreation play, but when the recreation seasons have ended, then our travel ball teams, which are comprised a large percentage of local children, they utilize our facilities as well, and we wish them the best. Children just want to play baseball and softball, and we hope that they can. This is going to provide some normalcy, hopefully, that has been lacking and missing for the parents and the children and the family members. So,
and you still offer batting cages, right?
Right, the batting cages are available as well, yes.
What about the rest of the facilities at the rec center? Somebody told me that the indoor pool is now open, but the outdoor pool's not open. Is that right?
Well, and the reason being, and it should be open next week, the outdoor pool for lap swimming only, and I'll go down a list of what is available. Of course, our fitness center, the recreation center has resumed normal hours, but the only things that are open in the recreation center, the rec center, is the fitness center and our indoor walking track. The governor still has all locker and shower rooms closed, so people cannot go swimming and use the locker and shower room, but we do allow lap swim at the indoor pool right now. But someone must come in their swimsuit, bring their towel, and leave in their swimsuit. And when Troy University closed their campus, as did every university in the state, we lost a lot of students, which meant that we lost about 80% of our lifeguards.
Oh.
So that put us in a bind as far as where we're at today. We have hired a lot of new people that have been going through training and certification, and as recent as I believe it was Monday of this week, Saturday, Sunday, Monday over the holiday weekend, plus Tuesday, they have finalized all their certifications, and next week we hope to have the outdoor pool open for lap swim, and hopefully very soon in the governor's next announcement, which will be approximately July 1st or 2nd, we're hoping that she'll lift restrictions on the lockers and showers that are closed.
My daughter got swimming lessons at the pool last year, and I bet there's a lot of people that that's another thing that's been affected you wouldn't think about. So I guess at some point you'll be offering swimming lessons again, but you can't do that right now.
Cannot do swimming lessons because obviously the instructor and the swimmer have to be so close to each other, and the social distancing is of 6 feet is a requirement in everything right now.
Wow, it's just.
Well, I tell you, and you wouldn't think that would be the case with swimming, but the thing is, Dan, you built such a wonderful program, and we've sort of taken advantage. Advantage of what a great program we've had going. And it makes you sort of look at it and say, heck, we were right here, and we were all the way back down to bar none, or to the beginning as far as being able to provide these recreation programs for our.
Hey, let me interrupt you, Mike. Steve has just put on the screen a photo of your wedding day with your beautiful bride, Carol, and it says, "Happy 50th anniversary."
Well,
Carol Crow Amos is a saint for being with Mike Amos for 50 years.
Yep, no doubt about that.
She's at the other end of the house. I'm waving at her. Happy anniversary Saturday. It'll be tomorrow. Will be the anniversary.
Oh, I love that. Love that picture. So happy anniversary to y'all. Where did y'all get married?
That was May the 30th, 1970, at the First Baptist Church in Troy.
Okay.
Who was the pastor then?
Clark Hutchinson. And tell you a little bit about Clark Hutchinson. He was a young pastor, and he married my wife and I. He later on moved to Atlanta or Marietta, Georgia, and his son played on that World Series, Little League World Series team in Atlanta. You probably remember that, Dan. Not many people can say I had a son that played in or won the Little League World Series.
That is true, yes, sir.
That was many bells ago, and I've had 50 of the most wonderful years that any man could ever ask for, with a wonderful lady. With my bride just walking, and the first thing she does, like she does every morning, is she fries and scrambles me eggs and grits and bacon and hot coffee. Just like you, Dan. I know you're missing out on eggs and bacon and grits this morning.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Carol looks like a Hollywood star, and that cake y'all are cutting is a masterpiece. That would cost $5,000 to get that made today.
She could see that on her telephone this morning, couldn't she?
Well, you could see on maybe the replay or something later today. That photo is from your daughter, Camille Amos.
Tournaments that might still be coming to town, but I bet the city of Troy and the recreation department lost a lot of tournaments and people coming to town because of this.
Well,
So-
we did have a state tournament scheduled for July 10th for boys baseball, the Dixie Youth State Tournament, and
Well, that's the biggest one I'm on. Was that the 10, 11, and 12-year-old?
actually, Mike, this one would have been 8 and under coach pitch with 24 teams.
Wow.
And but we're still just we're working hard and optimistic in all things, and we in addition to a couple of things that I mentioned, the fitness center and the lap swimming and the indoor walking track, a lot of people the playgrounds have reopened at the recreation center in Murphy Park. We're seeing people on the
That's really
playgrounds
big,
again. The walking trails have just been tremendous attendance on the walking trails out at the rec center and the sportsplex, and Pike County Lake has seen record numbers of people fishing.
We've been talking about that a lot.
So-
Forrest Lee comes on and co-hosts sometimes, and he works out there.
And
You got a great group of men out there. I might ride out there today and have coffee with them. They're great people.
they are.
Right out there today, you're at the beach.
Oh, that's right. What am I talking about?
Hey, I got an interesting question. I mean, I know this might be a dumb question, but where do you buy worms and crickets? Where do those come from?
Well, there's a vendor, a gentleman, it's called G&T Wholesale, and they come through Troy once a week and provide bait and tackle not only to the Pike County Lake Building, the bait shop, but many other locations in Pike County, and they come and see us once a week.
Probably jabs too.
Probably so.
That's
I
not
mean,
a that's a good question.
I used to fish a lot growing up, and I would catch catfish on livers. I mean, do people just bring their own liver out there? How's that work?
We sell that also.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a great setup. In fact, if you're over 70 years old like I am, all you got to do is y'all furnish your cane pole and your crickets. Is that right?
Well, those are available for people to purchase. We do sell all of that at the bait shop. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And
as far as like you can rent a canoe and a kayak, is that correct?
Well, we not canoes or kayaks, but we do have the John boats that we do rent.
Okay.
Yeah. I was out there the other day, Dan, and really enjoyed my time. And I tell you, there's some beautiful, beautiful areas to fish from. And there was a lot of people fishing, having a good time. And
Yeah.
you could come to there and have a picnic, lunch. Since we've gone through all this stay in and in the house still, I have been reunited with a banana sandwich and a pineapple sandwich. Dan, did your sweet mama used to do that for you?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
I mean, you didn't frown at a banana sandwich, did you? Especially with this great new mayonnaise we got now.
That was good eating.
But
the lake also has an archery range that I bet a lot of people don't know. Fantastic archery range. Do many people use that?
Oh, yes, they do, and it's another opportunity for children to get some exercise and get outdoors.
yeah.
What's
Dan,
on? Go ahead, Mike.
Dan is the son of the late great Moon Smith, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And of course, you played with. I'm gonna guess this. You played with the Cardinals, didn't you?
Yes, I did, and you were the head coach.
How many people could remember that? And how many people could remember that?
Do you remember when you coached the Senators in Farm League?
That was a long time ago.
Well, I played on your team then. You were my coach on the Senators in Farm League before Little League.
What position did you play, Dan?
How many games did you get kicked out of for chewing out umpires?
But you know something, Dan, that I remember so well. Scotty said, "All right, here's your ball. Let them play ball. Let them play ball." And we'd have 15 and 20 players on the same team.
That's true.
And we was on the same team, but we had a lot of fun. As long as the kids, and that was Scotty's philosophy, as long as they were having fun, let them play ball. How many times you heard him say that?
Oh, many times.
Dan's little brother, Ben, went to high school with me. He's 2 years older. And he was a great third baseman on some fantastic Charles Henderson High School baseball teams. So
went on and played college baseball. He was an excellent second baseman.
So baseball runs deep in your family, I guess.
Well, as all of Troy, it's everybody has connections with baseball and softball in our community, and we're very thankful that we got to play a lot out on the Shellhorn Road in the cow pastures.
I talked yesterday about when I moved.
Where in Shellhorn Road were those fields?
Well, that's a good question, Mike. When you go about 1.5 miles down the Shellhorn Road, that's where we lived, and my daddy had some cow pastures, and we would play baseball, myself and Ben and Mark Moats and Greg Owens, and we would play until it either rained or Mama told us it was time to pick peas or butter beans.
Well, you had the Moats were right down the street.
Mm-hmm.
They had their own ballpark too. In fact, I think there were about 8 of them. And we call it Gibsonville. Rusty Gibson, my good friend, who's a big-time attorney in Tuscaloosa now. He lives right there. And the late Johnny Gibson, we lost Johnny a few weeks ago. I don't know if we mentioned that.
We should have, yep.
What a great local servant he was of not only the fire department, but great family, Billy Gibson, and Russell Gibson and Moon Smith and all those. We always call where you live Gibsonville.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I remember going to spending the night with my buddies, including Brett Gibson, at the Domino Shack, which a lot of people remember. And then they also, the pickers, all the guitar players used to go to that Domino Shack and pick one night a week.
And some of the great local Sunday baseball was played down there years ago. Your dad might have played in some of the leagues with Boy Moats, and they would have a team in Spring Hill, one in Troy, one in Pine Level. They had a pitcher on that Pine Level team, Dan, it was named Tater Ray. You ever heard that name, Tater Ray?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
And then the great left-handed pitcher that was from Shellhorn, that was one of the all-time greats in these parts, Pete, Waters is actually Pete Waters. Do you remember that name, Pete Waters?
Well, unfortunately, I don't believe I have. No, sir.
So when you were growing up in Shellhorn, was Shellhorn schools around back then? When did Shellhorn schools? I remember kids going to school there, but when did that open?
Well, I'm not really sure. I know they were still open, and I went to Troy Elementary. I went to Cherry Street, Troy Elementary School. That's where I went.
You had somebody that would take you to town to go to school. There was a school right there in Shellhorn. I don't know if I think it went as high as far as junior high, I think, at one time, didn't it?
I think so, yes, sir.
There at Shellhorn. And,
when I grew up in the late 70s in Troy, we just had 2 fields that I remember at Knox Street. So it's amazing to see all the facilities and beautiful fields we have today. But that didn't keep us from playing and having fun. And then I guess the older guys played at Charles Henderson High School's baseball field, the Dixie Majors people.
And Dan, what you inherited, though, was a giant, and that was girls' sports, especially softball. And, not only do you have a first-class boys program, you have a first-class girls program. Girls softball is huge, isn't it, Dan?
Oh, very much so, and we're very thankful and blessed that we have the support from the coaches and the parents that really provide those opportunities for the young ladies. And we've had some really, really good softball players come out of Troy in recent years.
I remember when Dan and the rec department made the move to switch from slow pitch to fast pitch softball. That was probably controversial, but Troy was ahead of other communities in doing that, and it was obviously the right decision to make.
Well, that was 1995, and Mr. Johnny White came to see me one day because his daughter Betsy White
remember
was
Betsy.
in high school, and he said for her to have an opportunity to play college baseball, why are we playing softball why are we playing slow pitch softball when college softball teams play fast pitch? And everybody in the state, in Central and South Alabama, was playing slow pitch. But we transitioned into fast pitch, and thankfully many other cities joined us shortly thereafter.
And now Troy had one of the top teams around. You know, and Dan, you've got a lot of coaching. You know, you've been around it so long, not only as a player, but as a parent. You know, your son was an excellent player and a parent. But, you know, one of the hardest things to do, they say, is to teach a kid, a girl, how to pitch. I mean, it's not easy, you know, as it looks, to teach a kid how to fast pitch softball.
No question, and that's why I go back to what I was alluded to about the parents and the supporters and the teachers. There are people that know how to teach fast pitch, and that's a talent and a skill to be able to, because if you think about baseball, all of us have played baseball, so we could theoretically coach baseball and teach a little bit, but none of us have played fast pitch softball. And for a daddy to teach pitching lessons is extremely hard unless you have learned those skills from somebody.
And the lady you'll remember so well was the great coach at Goshen, who really knew how to teach it, and she passed it on to a lot of other people. Is that right?
Well, D. Hughes, yes, sir. As you're saying, D. Hughes, who of course passed away a few years ago, was instrumental in raising softball in Pike County. Not only at Goshen, but there were many girls that came through and played at Charles Henderson that D. Hughes had a influence on, and she would teach pitching lessons, and there have been many people to have that influence that have been very positive.
You know, I've noted before on the show that the impact of Title IX and the growth of female athletics. One anecdote that confirms this is the stock price of Hibbett Sports and the business they do. I looked at it one time and said, "Man, that stock is going crazy," and I sort of wonder why. And then, of course, it dawned on me that their market doubled, you know, in a matter of a couple of years, because instead of just selling sporting equipment to boys and boy teenagers, they were now selling it to girls and girls teenagers.
No question about it. You know, everybody looks at Hibbett Sports there in Troy, and they say, "Oh, that place don't do any business." Well, look at the stock market nationwide. You'll see, you wouldn't feel so sorry for it, would you?
Well, I remember Playmaker was the place that we all depended on. Man, I loved going to Playmaker and looking at the bats and the footballs and the basketballs.
And let me tell you this, the guy that started that is from Luverne, Alabama, Mac Wise, who played football at Bear Bryant at Alabama. He might be watching our show today, but Mac Wise is the guy that started Playmaker Sporting Goods. You remember that well, don't you, Dan?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And later, I know Mr. Ronnie Morgan ran the store here in Troy as well. Yes, sir.
He's a nice man.
That's right. He worked for Mac Wise. You're exactly right. Our guest, ladies and gentlemen, is the Troy Recreation Director Dan Smith. Dan, in the first of the show, I was mentioning, you know, Bill Sanford was one of the first recreation directors I remember, and then the great Pete Barrow, who is one of my all-time favorite people, and I know he is one of yours too. You know, he's in a nursing home in Montgomery now, but what a great influence he was. And he did so much with so little as far as facilities. Don't you agree?
Well, absolutely. I mean, anything that we enjoy today, any success that we enjoy today is because of the Bo Gaylords and Kathy Flynn's and Pete Ferris and on. Everyone that you mentioned that has had the influence and the vision is what they had to provide opportunities for the children and the adults and the seniors.
You know, my mom was on the Parks and Recreation Board for many years in the mid-'70s to early '80s, mid-'80s. And I think she was involved when they hired Bo Gaylord, but then the big important change was that the Recreation Department went under the umbrella of the city of Troy. And it seems like when that happened, everything took off.
Well, that's true.
Dan, if you'll remember, one of the things that stands out more than anything, if you have to put your finger on something, but when Troy went to South Carolina to play for the World Series baseball 13, 14-year-old championship.
Yes, sir.
You remember that?
1991, yes, sir.
All right, and when we got up there, we noticed that they were playing the game on a softball field, that all they did was just move the pitching mound back a few feet and added a few more feet to the baseline, and it was perfect place to play a 13 and 14-year-old baseball championship. We saw that. We won that championship with one of your employees leading the way, named Meadows, who later on played Major League. But don't you think that was a big, when we came back and we changed our philosophy on our softball fields and made them Dixie baseball fields, don't you think that was one of the big things ever to happen to Troy Recreation?
Oh, it was, and I remember when Bo Gaylord came back from Rock Hill, South Carolina, and I was the complex director at the Sportsplex at the time, and he and I talked about it, and it was a great idea on Bo's part, and it brought World Series to Troy. That
same World Series that Troy won, which I covered with Andy Murphy, it was later, not too long after that, hosted in Troy. That was a huge. I remember Pat Dye spoke at the banquet, and the Dixie Darling Cloggers performed and did the entertainment.
Put me in, Coach.
Hey, Dan, what about y'all's major fireworks show on the 4th of July? Is that still going to happen?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We will be having a fireworks display on July 4th, Veterans Memorial Stadium. And as we know, a number of people watch from
everywhere,
from Crow Hill to Banks to the tennis courts to Walmart parking lot, and as well as the campus of Troy University. So we are on schedule.
I found the perfect viewing spot last year, and I'm not going to tell anybody where it is. We took our blankets and lawn chairs and the kids, and we were blown away by the fireworks display.
Well, you know, from Rock Hill, South Carolina, and I remember we covered it on Troy Cable. Wiley sent one of the jets over. Old Bogey got us on a jet. We flew all the way to Rock Hill for that tournament, and we had such a great time. And, of course, we had two great coaches on those teams. One of them last name was Meadows, and the other last name, Mike, was
Leroy
Bryant.
Yeah.
Leroy Bryant. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Those two guys right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it should have been against the law as a kid. I had to play baseball and try to hit a ball off Brian Meadows and Marcus Bryant. That wasn't really fair.
You know, Marcus Bryant was from Brundage, and that shows that there's a lot of kids that play recreation ball in Troy that aren't from Troy, right?
Oh, we had tons of kids from Union Springs. We had kids from everywhere. Raymer, Union Springs had tons of great baseball players.
The great Wright kids, some of the best baseball players to pass through here, they're from Raymer, I believe.
Wesley Wright. And,
played in Major League.
Wright.
You got two of them, Wesley Wright and Brian Meadows, played in the Major League. We'll try to get them on the show before too long. Dan, it's easy to reminisce, and of course, with the vision of a Bo Gaylord, he always wanted to have all the fields located in one designated area, and he lived to see that. And then, of course, you've been able to do some of the best work, I think, with an indoor facility now next to none. You have people from all over the country that come by just to see what you've done. Isn't that right?
Well, we do have visitors, yes, sir, from time to time, and that's how we grow and they grow is just sharing ideas, and we're very thankful again what Mayor Lunsford and Mayor Reeves have done, the investment they've made in our community. Any success is a reflection on their leadership.
You know, everything that Bo Gaylord said would happen by building these new fields and the sportsplex and the rec center, it's come to fruition. You know, I would, Dan could tell us, but it just is incalculable to figure all the number of tournaments, you know, softball tournaments, youth baseball tournaments that have come to Troy, and just the number of meals that people have paid for, gasoline they bought, hotel stays. I bet it's.
Well, it's an industry. Rec baseball in Troy is an industry, no question.
Well, it markets the town. It brings people to the town that might end up being Troy University students, and then the sales tax revenue is tremendous. Plus, all the local residents get to use the facilities.
It's something that I know pretty well about because I watched it. You know, when Troy was thinking about building a rec facility, Dan. And the quality of the facility, you know, what we were concerned about, are we going to spend $5 million, we're going to spend $7 million, or we're going to spend $10 million. So even Bo came under a little bit of criticism, but was that, what are we going to do? When are we going to do this? When are we going to start building? Well, he waited to the right time, and you were right in the middle of this, you know, on the bids on this rec facility. It could have been an ordinary facility that had gone ahead and built it 2 years earlier. But by waiting and planning, we've got a state-of-the-art facility. Don't you agree?
Well, again, yes, sir. Our city council at that time, and our mayor and myself and Mr. Bo Gaylord all had ideas and tried to answer the question, what does Troy need that we do not have or needs vast improvement? Because the Murphy Park swimming pool had already been closed. Yep. So we needed a new public swimming facility, and the only basketball courts we had were the Elm Street gym and the Academy gym. We needed new basketball courts, and we were just able to provide a lot of opportunities again, and I can't emphasize this enough, not just for the children, but for the adults and the seniors.
What are some other sports? What are some other sports you guys might be looking to add on down the road? You know, I lived in Birmingham, and Mountain Brook and Vestavia are huge into lacrosse, and now I live down here in Grayton and Santa Rosa County, and or Santa Rosa Beach area, and a lot of people play lacrosse down here as well. Is that anything like y'all ever looked into, playing lacrosse?
Well, not really. I've heard a lot about it, that it is one of the fastest growing sports in America, and I feel like it will make its way to Central and South Alabama, but right now, and I call it our district, which is comprised of Dothan, Troy, Eufaula, Greenville, Ozark, Enterprise, and right now there's not any lacrosse that I'm aware of, but I feel certain once the young people learn the sport and get a taste of it, and some of the parents that have played before become involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really fun to watch. If anybody out there has never watched, I've watched girls lacrosse at Mountain Brook and the boys lacrosse team, and it's fun and exciting to watch.
You're talking about telling the kid to take this stick and run around. Take this stick and run around.
One of the greatest lacrosse players of all time was the greatest football player of all time, Jim Brown. We've been telling these kids all these years to stop hitting each other with a stick now.
Now you're going to give them one.
Wasn't Jim Brown the best lacrosse player ever, Dad?
He was pretty good at Syracuse. He was pretty good. And, of course, another sport that that I've seen, I don't know if you've even looked into, is indoor soccer for young kids. Is that anything that y'all looked at?
Well, no, sir. We have had some teams practice in our gymnasium, but we've never had any actual games. No, sir.
What about gym hockey. That was Whitey Whitman. That was my favorite sport in middle school. I dominated in gym hockey. Y'all play that anymore?
No, have not.
What about water polo? What about water polo? Do y'all have water polo?
Not yet.
My best sport in the PE program at the middle school was team handball. That's an Olympic sport. It's kind of like a combination of basketball and soccer.
Let me back up a minute, Dan. You have built a tremendous soccer program. Troy soccer is very good, isn't it?
Oh, no question. Again, that goes back to, I remember we were playing on the Elm Street multi-purpose practice field. You know, we played baseball there, we played football there behind the Elm Street gym. That's where soccer originally began in Troy for recreation.
Oh, that's where I played, yeah.
Yes.
Behind the old Troy High School?
Yes. And with the sportsplex opening up and converting some open space into a soccer complex, and soccer is a sport that a lot of children really have found their passion. And in Troy, it has exploded, and we're very thankful to have a very successful soccer program.
Dan, I want to ask you about how you got involved with the recreation department. When I remember when I came to town, you were the sports editor of the Messenger, and about 5 years after you were there, I was in the same position. But what led you to go from being the sports editor of the Messenger to working for the recreation department?
Well, I think I was with the Messenger, the Troy Messenger, for about 8.5 years, I believe. And had an opportunity to go to work at Troy State at the time.
Okay.
And I went and worked with Ron Pierce and Dan Boswell, and I was not there very long at all. And one day Bo Gaylord came to see me, and he said that they were building a ballpark. They were going to name it the Sportsplex, and he was interested, wanted to ask me if I would be interested in applying for the job to work out at the Sportsplex. And thankfully he came to see me, and thankfully I applied, and thankfully the good Lord looked after me.
So you've been with the recreation department since when?
Well, April 16th, 1990 is 30 years and some change.
Wow.
You know, if you'll think about it, right, me, you, and Dan all have the same deal. You know, we've written about sports and written about Troy for many years, the three of us, you think about it. But what Dan brings to the table, ladies and gentlemen, that very few people in the country, he is a world-class photographer. He is a big-time photographer.
Well,
you know, that's really your second love, isn't that right, Dan?
Thank you, Mike. I don't know about being world-class, but I enjoy taking pictures and promoting and publicizing, whether it be our recreation teams or the high schools, and it's a way to, especially in today's social media, to market and promote the good things that all of the young people are doing.
Boy, one day somebody ought to make a book of Dan's best action sports photos. You know, he is one of the best in the world. You know, he could have been a photographer for Sports Illustrated.
But to recognize talent too, Dan, you recently did some work with our good friend Bill Rice Jr. on this program that you did, recognizing Tourette syndrome.
Griff McQuarrie.
And yes, and I still have people talk about what a incredible story Bill wrote. That story, if anyone has not read it, it can be found on golf.com. And to bring awareness to Tourette syndrome, and to the McQuarrie family, and what an incredible golfer Griff McQuarrie is. And I was talking to his dad just a couple of days ago, Colin, and he played, I believe, Bill, was it in Florida this past week?
He played in Dothan, but at a tournament association that's based in Florida. They had an event.
Okay. And some of the older golfers there were talking about what an incredible golfer Griff is, to be only 18 years old, and the raw talents he has. But Bill's writing for Griff's story, to tell his story the way he did. Once you start reading it, you can't put it down. And it gave justice to what a fine young man Griff McCrary is, and the struggles and challenges that young man has gone through, and to be successful is just a incredible.
Thank you for that, Dan. The McCrarys, thank you for it. But the spread would not have been nearly as effective without Dan's photography. He spent probably hours taking pictures of Griff hitting all kinds of shots. And Golf Magazine, I thought they might run one or two, but they ended up running about 6 or 7 of Dan's photos, which really tell the story. Somebody told me yesterday that Griff shot a 66 at Troy Country Club the other day.
Oh, man. And he's not but 5'6", and he weighs about 145, about 150 pounds, maybe.
Well, they now say
I thought he was like 180. He looks pretty thick.
Yeah, he's built. If he was a football player, I bet they'd put him at fullback. But he's not tall, but he can hit. He told me, or his dad told me, that he thinks his average drive is 315 yards. And I didn't put it in the story, but he played in one tournament in Auburn over Christmas break. He won the tournament with a 15-foot putt on the last hole. I interviewed him that night. He had just got back from that tournament, and I thought he'd be, his mom told me he sunk that putt to win it, and I thought he would be proud of that. And the thing he was talking about is in that tournament, he hit one drive, he said, that was 350 yards at the former Saugerhatchee Country Club in Auburn.
And they call it club speed, but he calls it legs. He thinks most of his power comes from his legs, and you look at his legs, they're real strong, and one of the things about him, Dan and Rice, is he has gotten very good in the last year and a half. He's come on strong as far as scoring, being able to score well now.
You talk about Corona canceling the spring season of high school sports. I really think that Griff would have made big waves in these high school tournaments and sectional and state tournaments this year, as well as he's playing. He'd done well before, but, he was only a junior, so this would have been the year that, he might have, for all we know, won the AHSAA individual golf tournament.
Dan, you've heard it so many times that, through baseball, and of course, Dan is a tremendous baseball man. Like we have so many great baseball people, but you always hear about how hard somebody throws the baseball. Stand, you throw the ball 90 miles an hour, you've got a God-given talent. But I asked Griff about this. I said, is this something that you've developed, Griff, or is this something that you think God-given? And he'll be the first to say that he feels like his ability is a God-given ability, just like throwing a baseball 90 miles an hour. You go to one of these baseball bars, and they've got these guys throwing a baseball against the wall, and they turn on the see how fast it went. Well, 70 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour. When a guy throws it 90 miles an hour, 95 miles an hour, he is extraordinary. Would you say, Dan?
Oh, no question. It's remarkable what natural abilities he has that are God-given, that he is able to use those talents that's within himself. And his dad, Colin, has, what a great coach he has been for Griff.
That's good analogy, Mike, that you can either throw a baseball 85 to 90 miles an hour or you can't. And Griff's clubhead speed is sometimes, when he hits a drive, 120 miles per hour, 116 is his average. Well, that's more than most PGA players right now, and he's 17 years old, so it's going to get faster. But you can't coach that clubhead speed.
All right, Dan, you watched Brian Meadows. Of course, you've employed Brian Meadows, and there's not a finer young man alive today than Brian Meadows is. And there was a great thing you did when you hired him on your program. But we watched him play, and I coached against him, and I think he was good, but he didn't have the outstanding physical abilities. What he had, I thought, Dan, was demeanor. He didn't let anything bother him, and he was always cool. It's not always the physical aspect of it; it's the mental aspect. And
Brian Meadows, I don't know what you're talking about. That he was the biggest guy on the field. You don't think Brian Meadows was a big physical guy?
Well, I know he was a big guy.
Brian Meadows was 6'4", 230 pounds.
Well, that was in high school. We're talking about as a kid.
He was the tallest kid when he was a little kid.
Okay.
You let your dad talk.
He's not a
Well, I grew up with I grew up. He was.
Well, I didn't mean to get in an argument over this. I'm just saying that a lot of it was his demeanor. He did not let things bother him.
He was cool, calm, and collected on the mound. Always was. I watched him in a state tournament in Gunnersville when he was 15. Troy finished runner-up. I mean, the only reason Troy finished runner-up is Brian Meadows ran out of innings. He couldn't pitch anymore. But he was just super.
And you didn't appreciate his daddy as a coach until after you sat back and watched him. I mean, his dad was an outstanding coach. And the way he treated his, not only Brian but his other son. They were both very good players.
You saw Brent.
Yeah, Brent. And, Brent, of course, and Brian threw many, many balls at each other in the front yard growing up. And that has a lot to do with it, doesn't it? Dan, you see a lot of kids are good because they had brothers and sisters that worked with them.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, growing up, you had, I left out another one of the best pitchers that anybody went up against, especially at a younger age, was your family, Andy Blair. Andy was what, in Sports Illustrated? I mean, I don't know how many no-hitters and how many strikeouts did he have, Dan, when he was a kid?
Well, I think he had, if I'm correct, 10 no-hitters in 12 games, and the other two were one-hitters because of infield hits and tremendous amount of strikeouts. He was a gifted pitcher, and unfortunately, I'm not sure, I think it was maybe his rotator cuff that he injured when he was very young and just never recovered fully from the surgery.
Speaking of Brian Meadows, who I care about, I mean, great friend of mine, and I mean, I got to go to so many baseball games and spring trainings and get to meet all these famous Major League players through him, and just a great, great guy. But I don't know who Charles Henderson is going to hire as their next baseball coach. They're having a hard time keeping coaches, but Brian Meadows needs to be a part of Charles Henderson's baseball program somehow, some way. And maybe you can let him leave work early and be a pitching coach, or I mean, I'd be happy if he was the head coach of Charles Henderson baseball.
Well, I hope he can become a part of that program in any shape, form, or fashion. To have his experience and knowledge and ability to teach it has got to be a tremendous asset for the young people of our community.
And Mike,
I mean, baseball right now in Troy is phenomenal. At probably liberal arts, of course, they would have won 3 straight state championships, almost guaranteed. And then, Charles Henderson has fallen off some since Coach Irons has left. But it would be amazing if we could have both of those programs, competing for state championships every year again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No question.
Well, of course, one thing I want to add to this Blair deal, Harry Blair was the daddy. He was one of the best young pitchers that I ever saw come through Pike County. Did you know that, Dan?
Yes, I did. Yes, sir.
Harry Blair, their daddy, was good, too, so it was sort of a natural.
Andy Blair was on that Rock Hill, South Carolina World Series champ team. He wasn't the pitcher anymore, I guess, because of that arm issues, but that team, I covered them. I was the sports editor of the Messenger then, and boy, we covered it big. Andy Murphy helped me do it. That team was awesome. I mean, they not only did they win the World Series, I mean, in a lot of these games, they just dominated teams and just blew them out. And they another thing that was unique about that team is about 7 of them could pitch. You know, they had 2 or 3 great pitchers, but they could go 6 or 7 deep, and every one of them could hit. They all hit home runs, and they routinely hit home runs in games.
They're really good, no question. There's been some great players. A good friend of mine out on the bypass, when you buy chicken and buy gas every morning out at Jimmy Norman's filling station, that guy walked by, and Jimmy Norman was one of the best players.
How's his health? He had a bad fall. You know, Jimmy Norman's in the hospital. Our prayers go out to him. I hope he's doing better.
I think he is doing better, but of course, Dan, you know those stories of Jim Tom Norman and then of course the recreation director at Brundage, Bobby Joe Ellsworth, was a professional player himself. So
didn't you play high school ball with Kenneth Carter?
Oh yes.
He was a pitcher that was really, really good. We miss Kenneth.
Yeah. Boy, you start naming pitchers at Charles Henderson. How about Ricky Knott? How good was Ricky Knott?
He was about unhittable in high school and had a good college career too at Troy.
The greatest home run hitter I ever saw growing up, and I don't even know if he even played college, and he was just a big, strong weightlifting guy too, was Melvin Jackson. I mean, he would hit a ball that would just go, it seemed like 400 feet every single time he would hit it. Did he ever play college ball, Dan? Do you remember?
Well, yes, but I think it was junior college, and I'm not even sure about that because I know when I was in Elba one night in Dixie Youth when he was 12, and I think he hit 4 or 5 home runs in one game.
Gosh.
He with the right toolage, he would have gone all the way to majors, I believe.
He was.
I mean, he was like Reggie Jackson strong.
He was, and when he was 12 years old, he was one of those young kids that just had all the potential in the world. And I'm not sure if he moved or if he stayed in Troy. But I just don't think he ever...
You know who the most prolific home run hitter I remember at Charles Henderson High School was the late, great Terry Sykes, who you know well.
Yeah.
He reminded me of kind of Bob Horner, but he was also a fantastic catcher. But I think one year, his senior year, he hit 15, 16 home runs in like a 22-game season.
I'll tell you 3 players that were really good. They were born playing in a pasture with the Pew Boys. All 3 of those Pew Boys were good, especially one of them, I think, still holds the record for most home runs ever at Charles Henderson. But which Pew Boy was that, Dan?
Well, it would be Dax or Clint, and you're correct. One of those 2 does hold the home run record from what I understand, and my apologies for not knowing which one.
But wouldn't you agree with me? Those were 3 of the top rec guys that ever came through Troy, wouldn't you say?
Oh, no question. Yes, sir.
You know who doesn't get enough credit is Ralph Black's son, and our hearts and prayers go out to Ralph, who's having a rough medical time right now. But Ed Black's one of my good friends and high school classmates. He could hit a baseball unlike anybody I've ever seen. And the other thing about Ed is he could play darn near every position on the field. He was a shortstop. He was a catcher. He was a very good pitcher. But somebody told me once that at batting practice at Troy University, everybody talks about the home run that Bo Jackson hit over the lights into Sartain Hall. But somebody told me Ed Black hit one just as long one time in batting practice at Troy.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one of the best young players, Dan, and I think you'll agree with me, would be Rod McWhorter. Yeah. Rod McWhorter probably threw it as hard as anybody ever in Little League, wouldn't you think?
Yes, sir. He was a great pitcher and catcher. He sure was. Yes,
Him
sir.
and Terry Sykes firing the ball from the catchers to second base. I've never seen anybody do it like that did.
But
Rod played though at Columbus College, didn't he? Didn't he play at Troy and then transfer to Columbus College?
Yep, he sure did. He was an excellent player, and of course, you know, his son had done very well at Pike Liberal Arts. I want to mention this.
He's at Charles Henderson now.
Yeah. Also, I want to remind the Renfro kid is playing at UAB. Just signed a contract to play 4 years at UAB.
No, he's playing at AUM, isn't he?
AUM, excuse me. But that's quite a program for him, and congratulations to the Renfro kid that played last year or 2 years ago at Pike Liberal.
Dan, do you need to go to work?
I do.
All right. Let's take a commercial and let Dan cut off. And Dan, thank you so much. You've provided a ton of important information to us. And then we started going down memory lane. So,
Well, thank y'all, gentlemen, as always. Thank y'all for allowing me to be on your show.
One thing about you, Dan, you're Troy all the way, born and bred Troy all the way, like Rice and I are born and bred Troy all the way. We're just so proud to be here, my friend.
Well, happy anniversary to you, Mr. Mike and your wife, and thank you for allowing me to be on your show today, and thank you for what y'all do, and Bill, thank you very much, and we appreciate it very much.
all right, we'll be back in 2 minutes.
In the business, my friend.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Have you seen an increase in your insurance premiums or significant change in your insurance coverage? Let Sandbeck Insurance offer you a better plan to suit your business or personal needs. Sandbeck Insurance offers many lines of insurance, whether it's home, farm, or auto insurance, work comp, business, or health and life policies. Sandbeck is here for you. Call or visit our Troy, Enterprise, or Andalusia office today. Sandbeck Insurance, where we take pride in taking care of your insurance needs.
A personal touch. A high level of trust. Whether it's checking and savings accounts, personal or business loans, or our local friendly service. That's what Troy Bank and Trust customers expect. But now we offer more. Free identity theft protection for our new and existing customers, protecting your family's time, money, and good name from identity theft. Because protecting your identity is now a big part of our identity.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
We've been doing business the right way for 31 years, and now we've approached a year at the all-new Bill Jackson Ford. But don't take our word for it. We feel our customers express it the best.
I would recommend Bill Jackson to friends and family.
Environment was just friendly. It's a short drive from anywhere.
People like that. And we're back, and
That Gray was an excellent young player. Excellent.
off there we were talking about what are we going to talk about now that Dan's gone, and we decided unanimously, let's keep talking about great baseball players that came through Pike County. One I mentioned was one of my little brother Bobby's best friends, Sam Drake. He was a dominant. What was unique about Sam is he was a dominating varsity pitcher as a ninth grader. And then he ended up playing at Georgia Tech for 4 years and played a couple years in the minor leagues. Michael.
First thing about him, though, is great daddy. Let me tell you this. Basil Drake was one of the great men to ever come through Troy. Just like Basil Drake moved to Troy, and had a son that was a great player. And one of the better Little League Babe Ruth players I've ever seen. And then, like you said, went on as a high school outstanding player and then went on to Georgia Tech. I know this, that you go to a baseball game, Sam Drake's senior year, you see 10, 12, 15 scouts at every game. I mean, he had everybody knew how good he was, and a lot of people thought he would sign pro, but he went ahead and signed a 4-year contract to play for Georgia Tech. And
where did the Drakes move from?
They moved from Georgia. They lived over in Atlanta for a little while. He was with Liberty National, and was one of the. You ever heard me say glory? Well, he was the guy that every time.
Is somebody playing the harmonica?
That's my.
What is that noise?
That's my cell phone ringtone. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm working on this.
Taylor Hicks on the desk today.
I'm working on this story on COVID-19, and I'm sending it to editors all over the nation, and I had to look at it and see if one of those editors had called me back, but I just turned it off. Sorry about that. But I'll tell you about Sam. He's also one of the funniest people I've ever been around, and he's.
I never did see that. I never did see that in him. They used to call him Sudden Sam, and they used to call him Snake Bit, because he used to lose some of these 2-1 games in tournament play. But he was a outstanding player. Let me tell you this, though. There's been a lot of outstanding players, and along with Ricky Knott, his cousin, is an accountant, and there are two outstanding players that are both accountants in Dothan. One of them was the AD's son, who was a very good pitcher, I thought.
Blaine Stewart. Yeah.
And then the other one is also a big time accountant down in Dothan. And
Ross Jenright was pretty good.
Oh, very good.
All the Jenright boys were good, no question about it. Russ and Ross, and of course Ross. If you think about it, I think he led Troy in hitting one year out of Charleston. I think he led Chase Riddle's teams in hitting at one time.
I'll never forget when he hit the grand slam against AUM that night. We came back and beat AUM. That was a great game.
Sure did, and that was a huge game, and I remember it so well. It went over the right field scoreboard and allowed Chase Riddle to continue his mastery over AUM and their great coach.
I mean, recently you had the Van Horn kid. He was a great player.
Yep.
And how good Van Horn was, I think he almost single-handedly led Charles Henderson to 1 or 2 state championships. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Of course, you had the most recent championship. You had, John Michael Stevens. He played, I guess, at New Orleans. You had the kid. What's his name? That was the pitcher, pitched at Troy as well. I'm drawing a blank on him. I'm thinking about all Irons teams and all those great pitchers they had. Of course, you had John Johnson playing out in the outfield as well. You forget about him being on all the state championship teams.
No question about it. All the Henner boys were really good, too. Richard Williford was a good pitcher. Ronnie Lindsay was a great pitcher back in the old days.
You know who might end up being the best of all of them? He moved from Troy, was Steve Levi Garrett's son, Brax.
Yeah, first round pick.
He was like the 10th, 11th pick in the whole major league draft, and is now in the minor leagues.
I think he'll play Double-A this year. We read.
He had arm surgery that set him back a while, but I think he's coming back okay from that.
I'm still trying to think of a guy about your age, Rice, that pitched for Charles Henderson. And
I tell you, he was a great player, and unfortunately he passed away. And I'll never forget him. He was always one of the best players growing up. Was Will Green.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that Will Green had passed away. Oh my goodness, he was fantastic.
Yeah. He was a great player.
He was a great player, no question about it. And there's just been some superstars that have gone through Troy, and of course Troy baseball. And of course, I know we're going to folks live on Facebook across the country. They say, well, who is Troy? This is Troy, Alabama we're talking about. I'd put their baseball program up against most anybody. And I'm talking about Vestavia. I'm talking about some of the big names. You put this Charles Henderson team up against a lot of people.
Well, Mike, you're the one that asked this. Troy has always been considered a baseball town and had great baseball teams. What do you trace that to? Or it really predates Chase Riddle coaching at Troy University.
That had a lot to do with it. And then I go further back to that, back even to the days of playing ball on Knox Street. Of course, Mr. Robert A. McGee started that. But then, of course, Jim Tom Norman, and then he was the coach, and his son was Jimmy Norman, was a great player. Rip Talbot was a great Little League player. I'm talking about big time. That was a team that of Rip Talbot, and his catcher was, and shortstop was Jimmy Norman. But they had excellent Little League teams back then, and Rip Talbot was an exceptional pitcher on those teams.
I didn't mention the best two I've seen recently because I called their state championship game was Chase Smart and Joey Dennison.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
I mean, Joey Dennison, all he did is
and I've seen a lot of baseball. Chase Park's best high school player I think I've ever seen come through Troy, ever. He was that good a high school player.
Is he gone into coaching, or is he playing pro ball now?
Yeah,
He's playing the independent league up in New York area. He's still trying to play minor league ball.
Good, he should. He's got that much
and
talent.
Let me tell you something. And Dennison was one of the best college players I've ever seen. Dennison was right at a 400 batting average player. Came right out of here. And
he had 80 RBIs his senior year and hit over 400. It was an incredible year. He was Sun Belt Player of the Year.
And then his last year at Troy, how in the world?
He didn't get drafted.
Better player.
You know, I followed him because I went to high school with his daddy, Joey, who's probably the best offensive lineman to ever come out of Charles Henderson High School, and his uncle Ray was in my class. But somebody told me a story I'd never heard about Joey Dennison. I was talking about how all these great players on the 1980 Charles Henderson State Championship team played together their whole life, from Little League, Pop Warner. But then somebody said, no, not all of them. Said Joey Dennison did not come out for football until about 10th grade. Said he was in Coach Hogan's 9th grade Alabama history class. He was in the band at the time, and he was big and strong. He wasn't tall, but he was muscular. And Coach Hogan kept saying, son, you need to play football. You need to play football. He went out for football, and then he became kind of the John Hanna of this area of football.
He was very good.
And that is, and then his son becomes this outstanding baseball player. And I bet Joey never even played baseball.
Let me tell you,
weren't the Gaylord boys getting baseball?
Yeah, they love baseball, and
I mean, they were good. They were not as talented as a lot of these guys. The Heeners was a great baseball.
Yeah, you had Chris and you had Mike.
I'll tell you, from my era, you had Ed Black, Eddie Barnett really liked to play. David Starlin watches the show. He was really good.
David, now let me tell you this: David hit a lot of home runs.
Yeah,
was a big home run hitter.
Arthur Dees, Alex White, Mark Stevens,
Amos hit a lot of home runs.
Ben Smith. Mike Lott was an unbelievable pitcher.
Mike was a very good player. Anybody that played college ball like Mike Lott came and played for Troy, and a very good player.
He wasn't tall or weighed much, but he had a very good fastball and a wicked curveball.
He knew how to play. He grew up in this system, this Troy rec system, and was just a good player, no question. I still think trying to find this one guy that is. I can see him pitching right now, and I can't even remember his name, but he's a big accountant in the Mobile area, and he grew up on 2nd Avenue, right? And I see him.
Who's that? Bobby Owens?
No, the one. I'll tell you, a very good athlete that came through Troy and was also a very good baseball player was Buddy Austin's boy.
Mm-hmm. No, that was Buddy. That was Butch Austin's son, Buddy Austin.
That's right. Buddy Austin was Butch Austin's son. Buddy was a great athlete and a very good baseball player.
He was a center fielder, and he hit some of the longest home runs I've ever seen at Charles Henderson. Who was another really good baseball player, Mike, in Rush's class, the class of '79, Mark Davis, William Davis's son.
Yeah,
he was the quarterback of the football team, and
he was another very good athlete.
And he focused on football, but I think he didn't go out for baseball until his senior year. But he was quickly one of the best players on the team and a great hitter. And then his son, who's now a doctor or a surgeon or getting ready to be, he was a star at Montgomery Academy and played college baseball at Princeton.
He played at Princeton. What an education that got him. And he's a doctor.
Yep.
So you're right.
I mean, you got a lot of great athletes. I mean, I grew up with all the Lucas boys. Tommy and Jimmy are great baseball players too. I mean, you had a lot of good baseball players growing up.
But and of course they're good players, and then they're great players, outstanding players. And Charles Henderson is full of players that went on to the college ranks and did very well. No question about it. McClendon boys was a family growing up. Johnny McClendon, Wade McClendon, and that McClendon family, coached by their daddy, who coached in overall the late great D.B. McClendon.
I'll tell you, too, I just thought of is David Beasley and Michael Beasley.
That Beasley family was another good family of baseball. You're exactly right.
David played at, I think he played at Huntington, and now he's a coach in Georgia. And
he's the head coach at.
He's a Barry, isn't he?
Barry for a long time. He's very successful. And his brother David was really good. Probably should.
That family, those boys, both of them were very good. They were both college players, and they're very good baseball players. You're right. Came out of Charles Henderson.
Yep.
No question about it. And we could go on and on, I believe,
You know, I played high school. I played baseball through about the age of 13, Dixie Boys, and I thought I was pretty good. But then when I got to the high school level, I realized it's not even worth trying out for the team. I wouldn't have been able to make it with all those guys.
Wanted to mention Georgia has got another another transfer quarterback. They got a former 5-star JT Daniels out of USC. So now they have Jamie Newman, who is a grad transfer from Wake Forest. JT Daniels, I don't know if he'll have to sit out a year or if he'll get a waiver and be able to play immediately, but former 5-star player, has 2 years of eligibility left. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at Georgia. Of course, Jay Fromm went to the draft and made a huge mistake and went in the 5th round. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Well, Jake Fromm, he might be another Brady.
Went in the 5th round.
Yeah, Brady went in the 5th round.
Brady went in the 6th round.
I'm interested to see Jared Stidham taking over the reins at the New England Patriots this year. He might have been the steal of the draft a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely surprising they didn't draft a quarterback in this year's draft. They must have a lot of confidence in Stidham.
I think he was in the wrong system, Mike, at Auburn. It wasn't really a pro passing offense, but he had.
But he was in that exact same system when he went to Baylor. Baylor runs the spread just like Chip Lindsey and Malzahn ran the spread.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see with this new young freshman quarterback coming in, you will see Alabama run the ball a lot more with a running type quarterback. Our quarterback at Alabama right now is just a so-so type player. He's not a great player, or I don't even know if you can call him a good player, Mike.
No, I think he's going to end up being good.
He made some pretty good throws under pressure. I mean, I was pretty impressed. I mean, if you take away the 2 pick sixes, he would have been phenomenal.
But can this guy right here lead Alabama to a national championship? Is this guy that good?
Yeah, he's better than Greg McElroy.
Alabama's all about defense to me. If their defense can get back to the normal Alabama defense, I think Alabama can win a national championship. But if they can't stop anybody, it doesn't matter how many points they score.
Well, Michael, don't you think that this quarterback, I never can remember his name.
Bryce Young.
No, the guy that's coming back from.
That's how good he is.
Well, that's my.
You talking about Mac Jones?
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mac.
I'm the same way.
But Mac Jones, to me, looks like a lot better passer than Greg McElroy, and Greg McElroy led Alabama to a national championship.
You're exactly
he looks very similar to A.J. McCarron. That's what he reminds me of.
Yeah.
You know what impressed me, you referenced it, Michael, is there were some passes he made in the bowl game and even against Auburn where he completed them, and he just got crushed and took wicked blows, but he hung in there in the pocket, and I like that.
Malzahn loves this Auburn team, and, of course, with the quarterback. Again, to me, he's just a very average quarterback. He's don't you agree at Auburn?
I think he's got moxie and maybe the it factor.
He's got moxie. He's a winner, no question about it. That's what he does.
But, yeah, just based on his first year, you would say he wouldn't blow you away with his physical skills, but I'm going to cut him some slack because he was a pure freshman. I project him. All these quarterbacks improve rapidly over the years. You look at Jay Barker, how much he improved through the years. So you project this Auburn quarterback, what he's going to look like as a junior and senior. I think he will be one of the best quarterbacks in America then.
Well, I tell you one thing about what Malzahn says is that we'll win a national championship before he leaves. So that's saying a lot right there,
Yep.
But Do you think he'll be better, or you think he'll be worse this year? Tell me the truth.
Better. I think it's a huge jump between your first and second year is when people really usually make their most improvement in most sports.
Who is Auburn's tailback? Who is their tailback? Do they have a tailback they can win with?
Joe Cribbs.
No, not Joe Cribbs. Tyler Sullivan, Alabama Joe Cribbs. I promise you, Auburn will never have a quarterback out of Sullivan again.
James Brooks, William Andrews.
No, but I'm asking about right
I
now.
know. I was joking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They've had a good ones in their day. They probably, you could call them tailback you in a hurry.
Yep.
And they all in time played in the same backfield.
Well, Mike made a good point yesterday when we went through Auburn's schedule and prospects. Auburn loses every single starting offensive lineman. They were all seniors last year. So you would think that doesn't bode well for their running game, but maybe they got good people, behind them. We'll find out.
Mike, we've got a good weekend ahead of us, and if you're heading down this way, ladies and gentlemen, there's rain expected today, on and off showers, but we saw a beautiful sunrise over here. The water is pretty rough out there right now, but it'll be a great time to head to the beaches of Panama City. I want to mention, of course, next week, starting on June the 1st, all employees at Troy University go back to work. So there'll be more people in town. There'll be much more people in town next week. What do you think?
You know what I'm going to do this weekend, Mike?
What, buddy?
Get my first haircut in about 5 or 6 months.
That is great, man.
Y'all don't see me, but I came in this morning. I thought I was running late and rushed in, and I was in the car, and I said, I forgot my hat. I got to wear my hat. But I got here, and I found the hat behind the set here for Turner Lawn Care. So we've been giving Turner Mowing free advertising.
I know it. We do have a lot of hats behind there, don't we?
Thank goodness.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed our show. We're laid back, and that's where we want to be. Laid back, where you can sit back and have a hot cup of coffee and hear about old Troy and bragging this way and bragging that way. Every town, Luverne, Brundage, Andalusia, Ozark, all of them have these same stories they can tell about great players that came through.
That's right.
We just have to be more on the Troy Network. So we hope that you enjoy watching our show and you learn a little bit from us. Mike, over 100,000 people have died from the corona-19 virus.
Oh well, hey, Steve's telling us we gotta go, Mike. We're past our time. You want to wrap it up for us?
No, I hope everybody has a great weekend, and our prayers and our thoughts go out to the people that have lost lives. And please be conscious of this virus out there and do the things that they tell us to do. So be safe.